I'm a little bit at a loss to whether or not I want to call it like this is clear-cut self-defense. Obviously, not every case can be clear-cut self-defense, um, and some of them, the people claiming to do self-defense do some things that are just like, why did you do that? Like the nurses changing his scrubs after the shooting. Um, that's a little strange. But this one I think takes the cake on like, okay, you're gonna claim self-defense, but you did that. A little weird. So man admits in a Jordaniel road rage killing out of self-defense, but remains out of jail. So he admitted to the killing, calls it self-defense, and currently he's out of jail. So it makes sense to me, depending on the evidence that's shown. And we actually have a video of this one. So depending on how the evidence is seen, I can see why he's out, because they don't have enough evidence to think that beyond a reasonable doubt they could charge him. So in September of 2024, Patrick Hayes was shot and did not make it in a road rage incident in Cross Creek entrance of the Jordaniel State Park. Since then, the shooter has come forward admitting he fired the shots. But there have been no murder charges filed in the case, and it remains ongoing. Of course, they're looking for more information. On Wednesday, the Wasatch County House Court held a short hearing to get the groundwork for more to come that is already come in this already complex case. The man faces charges. Greg Dubert claims he pulled the trigger in an act of self-defense, according to the court documents. Dubert currently faces second-degree felony charges of obstruction of justice, which we'll get into in the next article. I was trying to figure out, like, what did you do to obstruct the justice? So I had to dig into it a little further. The charges stem from Dubert's failure to report the shooting to police. It's not just that. Dubert was arrested months after the shooting on Christmas Eve. He's got a sick mullet. Dubert appears in court hearing. On Wednesday, a judge allowed him to remain out of jail on condition that he continues wearing an ankle monitor bracelet. So at least they know where he's at, right? Hayes' fiance, Sue Ann Kern, was in the courtroom on Wednesday. She says months later, the pain still feels fresh. It seems unfair to me, she said, and the fact that he wasn't arrested until Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, and he was in jail for 3 nights. Patrick's gone. So she's obviously hurt because Patrick didn't make it, unfortunately. But sometimes if the case is truly a self-defense case, unfortunately for her, it makes sense why he didn't make it. From here, Kern said that he hopes more evidence is brought forward. I would love, and this is where I would love it to see if we can find more evidence to go with a harsher sentence, or at least a harsher charge, and definitely a harsher sentence, Kern says. So she's definitely emotional about this situation. The case continues. A prosecutor said they're examining the potential for additional charges filed. Dubert is set to be back in court in April. So we'll know more here in the near future, but we actually have a video of this, and also a little bit more information as to the obstruction of justice. So the road rage shooter footage revealed, Dubert faces obstruction of justice charges. So Greg Kyle Dubert, 62, appeared for a preliminary hearing on Wednesday morning to face obstruction of justice charges after burying the gun. Why? He used to shoot Patrick Hayes, 61, so they were really close in age, following a road rage incident on September 25th. That like changing the scrubs, like, I don't understand. Why did you bury the gun? That one to me just leaves me scratching my head. The park record obtained footage of Hayes shooting, recorded by the surveillance cameras at the Ross Creek entrance to the Jordaniel State Park the morning of the Dubert hearing. The footage shows Hayes pulled up to Ross Creek entrance at 11:09 p.m. on September 25th. Hayes Park with his right turn signal on, and with Dubert following behind him in his Jeep Gladiator. Hughes is seen approaching De Beers' vehicle while holding a pocket knife and a baton, so he's armed. De Beers then drives toward Hayes before braking hard and forcing Hayes to turn and run to the roadside. The Jeep then lunges towards Hayes, and we'll watch the video here in just a minute, and falls to Hayes, and he falls to the ground. A verbal exchange follows. This is where De Beers repeats, "Oh yeah, oh yeah." Hayes says, "Do you want to get out?" He actually says a little bit more than that. Hayes calls De Beers using a variety of profanity. Exactly 30 seconds after Hayes steps out of the car, a single gunshot is fired, and Hayes shouts, first in alarm and then in pain, as one would. Then De Beers is seen reversing out and pulling towards State Route 248, leaving Hayes injured, lying near his car. No calls were made to 911 until the following morning when a passerby noticed Hayes. The caller said he was not breathing, covered in blood, and laying on the ground. The authorities arrived 12 hours after the shooting. Hayes' car was still idling with the right blinker flashing. Hayes' pocket knife and baton. So this is a little bit of an interesting caveat. Incident report describes the baton as polymer, while the Wabash County Sheriff Office press release categorized it as a baton. The baton as metal. That was recovered from the scene. The investigative police report shows the preliminary information and evidence determined that the death was likely a homicide. Of course. A search warrant was obtained for the search of De Beers' home. After a 48-day investigation, De Beers was interviewed by the Wabash deputies and admitted to the shooting, but he claimed it was out of self-defense. In the interview, Gregg stated that he feels at peace with the decision to use lethal force because he considered the interaction with Patrick to be life or death moment. In De Beers' description of the events leading to the 11 p.m. altercation in the Ross Creek area, he said that Patrick cut him off to the exit to the Interstate 80 onto the US 40 despite not being in the exit lane. Classic road rage. Someone's just cutting you off and you're getting a little mad. De Beers said that Hayes repeatedly ran him off the road but insisted no prior collision took place. I actually saw one of these earlier today on my way home from work. I even almost got ran off the road by this little road rage situation. So I've seen quite a few of these shootings where it happens due to a road rage situation, and sometimes it's better to just drive away. Of course, sometimes you can't. I am on the fence of whether or not that could have been the outcome from this one. However, the vehicle impound records report that damage on the right rear wells of Hayes' Volkswagen Taos. Sue Ann, Karen's fiance, here she is again, said that those were not there when Hayes left for dinner with his son in Murray the night he died. Both Sue Ann and her daughter Sam have said that Hayes' death and the following investigation have been extremely difficult for her to endure. I remember when I initially got the call, I didn't know what happened. I knew that whatever happened, it was going to be hard, but it's definitely harder than the months afterward, knowing that he would still be alive, Sam said. This wasn't a freak accident. Gregg De Beers got to decide if Patrick should die, and I don't get why he got to make the decision, and now I'm having to face the consequences of that. And that's the hard part about like a real like cut and dry self-defense case is like sometimes people forfeit their own right to continue going on by choosing to do those, I talk about often those things that you choose to do in a split moment that change your life forever. And sometimes people make those decisions that forfeit their right to that particular carrying on ability. Sue Ann said that one of the hardest parts for her is that the idea of Patrick could be seen as initiating the aggressive behavior because of a pocket knife and a polymer baton he had on him. I mean, we've seen cases where people initiate the violence because of a BB gun. Like, a pocket knife, though small, depending on how you use, can be fairly effective. And a polymer baton is, I mean, you could definitely do some damage with a polymer baton. And if it's a metal baton, like it's described in the report, I mean, that's even worse. It was just something, cheap thing he probably got off of Temu. Doesn't matter, in my opinion. Sue-Ann said, "We want to make that clear that it was not deadly force. A knife is deadly force. It's just clear-cut knife is deadly force." Wabash County Sheriff Jared Rigby said that it's hard to determine what DeBeer and Hayes' intentions were based off the Ross Creek entrance footage, which we'll get to here in a second. There's only two people involved at this point in time, Mr. Hayes and the defendant, and Mr. Hayes isn't here to tell us his side and what he feels happened. When asked in previous interviews, Rigby confirmed that there is no Utah state law that requires the shooter in a self-defense scenario to report the incident to 911. And there's actually some school of thoughts that say you should always have somebody else report it. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think you're required to. If you're the only person that can, I think it's smart to, personally. But you're not required to, especially here in this Utah particularly. There's not a requirement in Utah state statute to notify someone, Rigby said. I find that very troubling. We find that very troubling. When DeBeer claimed of self-defense, he skirted a homicide charge. DeBeer is facing one count of obstruction of justice for burying the .45 caliber Kimber 1911 he used to shoot Hayes. The investigative report read that the bullet forensic specialist recovered and matched a rare bullet of ammunition that was used by DeBeer, a .45 Winchester Black Talon round, which was popular in the 90s until manufacturing ceased in 2000. I just found that kind of interesting. It's like he kept onto these like antique, or I guess somewhat antique specialty rounds. Rigby said that the fact that the defendant buried the firearm was concerning to us in law enforcement, which I kind of agree. It's like, why did just report it and you're good to go? I mean, not necessarily good to go, but like, of course things are going to start, but it doesn't look suspicious, like burying the gun. After the search of his home in November, DeBoer was later taken into custody, booked at the Wabash County Jail. One day after DeBoer's bail hearing in December 28th, the Heber District Court, DeBeer paid $25,000 in bail and then was fixed with an ankle monitor and released. The housekeeping issues DeBoer's defense attorney Andrew Dressing brought to light that his preliminary hearing on Wednesday said that DeBoer's bail bondsman mistakenly paid $25,000 and was only supposed to pay $20,000, so he overpaid. That's kind of strange. Dessing also informed the judge that Judge Jennifer Mabee that of a no contact order issued by Hayes' family members and others. There was one that posted an issue protective order requested by DeBoer's brother, Doug DeBoer. The defense said that the court order the pair have an agreement sorted that Doug leaves the house, and this kind of gets into something about whether or not he's able to take care of his aging mother and be free. The prosecution doesn't want the aging mother to become a pawn in this particular case. So it's just interesting. He says that he doesn't have a history of violence. He's concerned about retaliation or is concerned about contact. So he does have that upcoming hearing in April, but let's kind of get into that video here, because I struggle to say that it's a clear-cut self-defense, partially because you can't see a little bit of it. Maybe there was a tight space and he couldn't necessarily turn around, but let's get into that just a little bit. So you can see one car approaching the camera. I hope this audio is coming through well enough. You can kind of hear the car coming in. It pulls to the side, throws this brake on. I'd make it bigger, but it actually doesn't get any bigger. The door opens. Hayes gets out of his car, and then DeBoer lunges as they said. And then here's where you can't really see anything of substance, but you do hear the verbal altercation. And Hayes is now calling him out, asking for a fight. And that's where the fatal shot is. And you can see DeBoer backing out and leaving. So that's kind of the video footage. Of course, you can't see anything actually occur, but you definitely hear the verbal altercation. And we also know that the baton was present and a knife was present. So I struggle to say this is the most clear-cut self-defense situation, but we have seen an uptick, or at least I have noticed an uptick of people in road rage situations where they will stop and try to get somebody out of their vehicle, be it to do harm to the individual or to steal the vehicle. I don't know if necessarily that was the case, but if you're seeing this happen more regularly, of course you're going to be on the alert about this happening. So a lot of these road rage situations have led to unfortunate side effects for the people getting out of their car. I think it's never a great idea to get out of your car, no matter how upset you are about a situation. Just leave. And part of me thinks maybe DeBoer was trying to turn around when he lunged the car forward. He's also being approached by weapons. He's in what can only be called a gigantic weapon, a car. And rather than pulling out his gun, he might have thought to use that. And then when the gap was too small and there was no motion available, who knows what, maybe approached his door or something. Man, it's a hard one. Let me know what your thoughts are on it. Do you think that this is, at least the idea of self-defense is plausible? Or do you think that maybe DeBoer is just completely in the wrong and that he should have just drove on by? I think that probably would have been the smartest move to do. Even if possibly you're breaking a couple of traffic laws, at least you live to not get charged with crazy murder charges or burying a gun. I thought that one was interesting. But yeah, get in those comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. If you found value in this video, please hit that like button. It helps out this video a lot. If you want to hear more news related to the Second Amendment and self-defense, please subscribe to Armed Culture. My name's Steven, bringing you such news, and I'll talk to you soon.